Four things decide your DEKA result: your engine, strength, running, and pacing. Not how creative the workout was, not how wrecked you felt after, or not how many sessions you fit in a week. I'm going to walk you through the mechanism behind each one. Because once you understand why something works, you can look at any program and know inside 30 seconds whether it is aimed at anything. Start with the engine, because it gets the least amount of credit in an event that looks like a strength test. Zones 2, 5, and 7 are the row, the ski, and the bike. Those three are identical for every athlete on the floor. Same distance, same calories, no weight adjustment for age or gender. That is roughly a quarter of your zone time decided entirely by aerobic output. That is the obvious part. Here's the part that most people miss. Every hard effort you do burns through phosphocreatine, which is your fastest energy system. To restore it, your body needs oxygen. Restoration has a fast phase that happens in seconds and a slow phase that takes minutes. How fast that happens is determined by your aerobic fitness. Two athletes finished zone 7 at the same time, having done identical work. The one with the bigger engine has restored more of that system by the time they pick up the dead ball. Same work in, different starting point for zone 8. That is why aerobic capacity predicts performance in an event with no long continuous cardio. It is not about the cardio zones, it is about what you have left for the zones after. And this holds in DEKA Strong, where there is no running at all. People assume strong is purely a strength event, so the engine does not matter. 10 zones back to back with no recovery is exactly where aerobic capacity decides the outcome. Strength in DEKA is not about your numbers, it is about your relative intensity. The load is fixed. A 60-pound dead ball is a 60 pounds regardless of who is lifting it. What changes between athletes is what percentage of their maximum that load represents. When a load is a low percentage of your max, you recruit fewer motor units movement. You stay in a more fatigue-resistant muscle fiber, and you produce less metabolic byproduct per rep. When a load is near your ceiling, every rep is expensive, and you are paying in a currency you need for the next 4 zones. Get stronger and the zones get cheaper, not faster in isolation. That is the mechanism, and that is why general strength work shows up in your results, even though nothing about a heavy squat looks like a dead ball over. Now the grip. Zones 1, 6, 8, and 10 all load your hands. That is 4 of the 10 zones. In DEKA Atlas, it is zones 4, 5, 7, 8, and 10, half the event. Grip is its own problem, and it does not respond to general fitness. When you hold a hard grip above roughly a third of your maximum, you compress the vessels running through your forearm. The muscles work with restricted blood flow. You cannot breathe your way out of that. It is a local problem, and it is fixed by loaded carries and time under tension, not by conditioning work. 4 of your 10 zones share one limiter. If you take one thing from this and put it in your program this week, make it carries. Running. Running is where DEKA stops behaving like a single event. Strong has 0 running, Mile has 1,600 meters spread across 10 runs, and Fit has 5,000 meters spread across 10 runs. Atlas has no running. So the first thing to say is this: if you're training for Strong or Atlas, running is not a lever. Do not let anyone sell you on a running block for an event with no running in it. For Mile, and especially Fit, 2 separate qualities matter, and most people treat them like one. The first is running economy. That is how much oxygen a given pace costs you. 2 athletes can have the same maximum capacity and completely different economies. The more economical one arrives at every zone, having spent less to get there. Economy is trainable, and it is trainable separately from your ceiling. The second is durability. That is whether you hold your economy and your threshold as the event goes on. You're running 10 times, and every single run comes right after a maximal zone effort. That is why a fresh 5K time tells you very little about your fit performance, and why your run splits at zone 8, 9, and 10 tell you everything. The question is not how fast you run, it is how much slower you are on run 10 than on run 1. Train that specifically. Run after zone work and not before it. Pacing. This is the last one, and this is the one that decides whether the other 3 actually show up on race day. Above a certain intensity, you are drawing down a finite reserve of work capacity. It is a fixed amount, and it refills only when you drop below that intensity, and it refills slowly. DEKA is built on that cycle, whether anyone designed it that way or not. Every zone spins from the reserve. Every run, if you pace it right, repays some of it. The athlete who attacks transitions and runs every lap hard is spending the whole race and not repaying any of it. That does not show up at zone 3. It shows up at zones 8, 9, and 10, which is exactly where people say they fell apart. They did not fall apart at zone 8. They spent it all at zone 2, and the bill came due at zone 8. Strong is a different problem. There are no runs, so there is nothing to repay with. You only recovery is what you can take from inside the zones themselves, which means the pacing decision moves inside each zone rather than in between them. Either way, the failure looks the same. A pace that worked for 3 of the zones and cost you 4. Engine makes recovery cheap. Strength makes zone cheap. Running makes fit cheap. Pacing decides whether any of it survives to zone 10. Before every session, name which of the 4 you are training and which zone it targets. Engine zones 2 and 5, grip for zones 6 and 8. If you cannot name both, it is just volume. Run your baseline, post your 10 zone splits in the community, and then we find out which lever is your slowest zone.